Hey, author bosses, it's Megan Barnhart. I'm coming at you live from the Author Like a Boss Facebook page, and I'm going to go ahead and get us shared up in the Author Like a Boss Facebook group. If you're watching this video from somewhere besides the awesome Author Like a Boss Facebook group, make sure you come over and join us there. Every week, Ella and I go live. We give tips. We have great community. There are, fun conversations about what's going on in indie marketing. It's just a good place to be. So make sure you join us over there and let me know how your day is going. I'd love to hear from you. What's happening on your Thursday? Is it good? Bad? Somewhere in between? I hope good. Yeah, and let me know if you can hear me as well. I am excited to be here today. I'm excited to be here every Thursday, I'll be honest, but I'm especially excited to be here today because I'm going to be talking about something, and I just, as I was eating lunch today, I had like some new inspiration about ways to talk about ending your first chapter, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be a fun live today, so I was adding on to my outline. All right. That Ella and I are here live in the Facebook group every week, giving you writing and marketing tips. What you might not know is that we also run the Author Boss Academy. That's where you can come get even more hands-on help and really make progress with your indie authoring. And we also are running Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, which is a 10-week program that helps you really get your books to take off, reach more readers, and make sure when they reach those readers that they're really fantastic. Hey, Dave. Hey, Cassie. Good to see you guys. So in preparation and in celebration of Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp launching at the end of this month, Ella and I are bringing you tips that are specifically about getting your book out there, launching your book, and making sure that when it hits shelves, when it hits readers, they're really excited, that all of that great marketing you did beforehand is matched by the great story you have. So today I'm going to continue the conversation about writing a story that readers love, and we're going to talk about the end of your chapter, your first chapter. It's really, really an important place, right? So tell me your confidence level about your first chapter. In your opinion, how's your first chapter? When it ends, are readers going to absolutely need to get to the next chapter? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that your first chapter is going to hook readers? Let me know in the comments. Thank you, Dave. Dave's giving me a mic check. You know me so well. How confident are you? Scale of 1 to 10. Is your first chapter going to make readers keep turning pages? Oh no, Cassie says your current WIP is like a 2. Yeah, that's hard when you're in the middle of drafting. But especially if you already have a draft finished, if you are working on editing, if you're farther along in the current book that you're in, this is a really important question. As you're editing, as you're working with an editor or working with a critique group, what's that first chapter like? Amy says a 7. Awesome. Ooh, I'm glad to hear it. Amy, what genre do you write in? I'm curious, because maybe you could do a checklist for some of the things I'll be talking about today. So if your confidence in your first chapter, making readers keep reading, is not that low, hey Ella, good to see you, is not that high, then this information is especially important for you, because reality check, if your first chapter doesn't leave a reader with that need to keep turning the pages, odds are she's going to move on to another book. Think about how many books are on your TBR. We all want to be reading books that are engaging us and that are moving us forward. All right. So if you want people getting you those page reads, getting to the end of your book and leaving you a great review, you have to end your first chapter with something called an open loop. This is actually a marketing term, an open loop. It can be done in a lot of ways. And what I'm going to do is take you through how to create an open loop so that you can find a way to do this for your genre and what works for your genre. Okay, so the concept of an open loop is that there's some question or some unknown that leaves our brains unsatisfied. And our brains don't like being unsatisfied. They need to know what happens. So if you can create an open loop at the end of your first chapter, chapters, readers are going to keep going, and there's a little asterisk there, as long as you've also done all the other things that you need to do to first chapter like a boss. Because what you don't want to do is have a really miss of a first chapter and then just throw in some kind of open loop at the end and be like, oh, readers are going to keep going now. No, that will only annoy them, right? An open loop question only works if they're already engaged. So you can make sure to check out the video I did about getting readers to fall in love with your main character. You can find that on our YouTube channel, Author Like a Boss. Make sure you're hitting those points too. Okay. Diane says, my problem seems to be not knowing when to end it. I write in segments, or have. My chapters have gone on for 30 pages straight. I need to learn how to do the chapter thing. Hoping this chat helps. Ooh, yes. Hey, Melissa. Hello, beautiful people. Melissa, I love how you're always so positive. Okay, so Diane, that's a great question, and something that won't be completely answered by this, because you'll have to think a little bit more about what the whole arc of your chapter looks like, but maybe this will start giving you some ideas about how to know when you're approaching the end. So definitely take the tips from here and see what you can do with them. So let's look at different strategies for creating that open loop, creating that need for readers to know what's going to happen next. Probably the most famous is the cliffhanger. Dun, 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 right? And this term comes from those old serials on the radio or before movies or even on TV. And the hero is literally hanging off a cliff, will our heroes survive and catch the dastardly villain? Tune in next time to find out. A cliffhanger has a lot of danger and drama and suspense. Somebody can literally be hanging from a cliff. So this works really well if you write action, if you write suspense, if you write thriller, or if you write farce, because farce is larger than life. If you write comedy or satire that's kind of over the top, think Mr. Bean, Fawlty Towers, all of those, you can have I'm like imagining, I can almost see an image of Mr. Bean hanging off a roller coaster or something. I think that's happened in some episodes, okay? So all of those genres will take a cliffhanger at the end of a chapter. We've had some questions lately about prologues. A cliffhanger also works well if your story starts out with a prologue where the action that's happening is set way before the main action of your story. Like there's this old artifact and something's happening and at the end he's hanging off the cliff, and then we jump to its modern times and we're getting different characters, and that cliffhanger is kind of left for us to wonder about for a while. All right, so cliffhanger, that's one option, but it's not your only option. Another option would be surprise. So maybe new and surprising information is revealed right at the end of the chapter. A twist, something that makes readers do a double take. A surprise works really well if you write, again, farce or any genre of comedy, drama, romance, right? Like Mr. Darcy shows up, but he's actually cute. Or mystery, right? This could be where somebody walks in and announces that a dead body has been found. So maybe a surprise will work for your genre. Chime in so far. Do you think either a cliffhanger or surprise would work for your first chapter? I would love to hear. Ooh, Amy, okay, near future sci-fi. Thanks for asking my question about your genre. I have some good picks for sci-fi with strong romantic elements. Ooh, so surprise could be one that works. All right. So far, anybody voting for one of those two? I could use a cliffhanger, I could use a surprise. Let me know in the comments. I want you to start thinking through how you could apply this to your story. Another option is end the chapter with a desire. Your main character is longing for something, and that could be a place, an outcome, or another person. Sexual tension makes for a great open loop at the end of a chapter. I read a first chapter of a book recently, and there's like this nice playful banter happening, and the characters are eating dinner, and then towards the end of the chapter they're eating dessert, and it gets like suggestive, and you're like, whoa, and I want to keep reading. Okay, a desire open loop book works well for romance, for drama, and any genres that have elements of those. So for romance, it could be all the different types of romance, or if you're just writing a straight drama, it could be, you know, any subgenre within drama. This also works for setting heavy genres like historical fiction or sci-fi or quest fantasy, because that desire could be, now we want to go get the whatever, now we want to go slay the dragon, now we want to go find that magical thing. So Amy, I wonder if you could see yourself using a desire open loop at the end of your chapter where there's the introduction of this quest or something similar. If that would work for you, because you also have the romance element in there. So let me know if you think. Okay, so far, let's see, I've talked about cliffhanger, surprise, and desire. Another open loop that you can use is big decision. So at the end of the chapter, your main character is making her move. You know, the prison break is tonight, or today's the day she set sail to search for her missing father. A big decision open loop works well for literary fiction. If you don't write genre fiction and you just write straight literary fiction, use this big decision open loop, because that's in line with us being focused more on your characters than on a setting or on, you know, some of the cool technology or magic that's going on. It also works well for drama, for comedy, and for romance. So big decision is a wonderful all-purpose open loop you can use at the end of your chapter. And the last open loop that I have on my list, there are more than this, you guys, but these are the ones that I was brainstorming on and went, ooh, I could add in a few more today. So I'm sure more will hit me throughout the rest of the week. But the last one is the call, right? Your main character didn't think today was going to be the day that she risked everything to go on a journey, but fate had other plans. So maybe she just got an urgent call telling her it's time to put her money where her mouth is. The call often comes in the form of another character, someone close to the main character being killed or injured or kidnapped. And the call works well for epic fantasy, for epic sci-fi or space opera, any kind of protagonist-driven mystery thriller or suspense. So if you have a mystery thriller or suspense, but it's really focused on that main character who's solving the crime, this is a great one to use. Action or drama, and of course, any story using the hero's journey. And I say of course because the call is actually one of the stages of the hero's journey. The hero's journey is something like the first Star Wars or the Odyssey, where, you know, a reluctant hero has his whole life change in one day when there's bad news, and then he goes off on an adventure and saves people and all kinds of cool stuff. So those are just a few of the many ways you can create an open loop. I'm going to pause here. I'm seeing some questions in the chat, so I'm going to go back through and look at those. And if you have a question about one of those types of open loops, go ahead and put it in the chat right now. Let's see. So, ooh, okay, Amy, you're using a cliffhanger. Awesome. Do you like the way it's working? It's a tried and true method. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Dave says his genres work with either, but usually use a cliffhanger. Yeah, it's one of the most common ways to end a chapter for a reason. Hey, April. Okay, cool. Amy, I'm glad that you can see yourself using that desire, maybe. Cassie asks, are there advantages or disadvantages to having a predictable ending to the first chapter of a series? In my mystery series, the end of the chapter 1 seems to always end with the main character getting her next assignment, good or bad. I personally like that, and having read one of this is the Dorothy Clays series, yeah? Having read the first book in that series and knowing the feel of it, to me, that's perfectly in line with the type of mystery you're writing. What I'll say in general is that as readers, and I bet you guys will find this is true for you, as readers, we cut more slack when it comes to predictability. Like, we're more willing to put up with predictability when we're really bonded with a character. That's my experience. Do you guys have that experience too? That I'm like, oh, I know it's a trope, I know it's a thing, but I really care about the character. So as long as you've gotten me to connect with the main character in some way, we talked about a lot of strategies for that last week, and you can find that video on our YouTube channel. or it's coming soon. As long as you've made me connect, then I'm going to cut more slack for the predictability, but definitely in that in the kind of cozy cat world adventure genre of mystery that Dorothy Clays falls into, Cassie, I would say absolutely. Yes, but make it predictable, and then it's fun, and then it's like for each series, I know how things are going to get started and how the adventure is all going to begin. So I would say go for it. Okay, Diane, you're saying big decision will work for you. You normally write horror or thriller. Ooh, okay. Life circumstances led to a new work about wife taking on a Stepford wife approach to prove to her husband that's not really what he wants. Uh-oh, that sounds like a very dark episode of I Love Lucy. Like if I Love Lucy met the Twilight Zone. Cool. All right. Okay, cliffhanger works. Susan says, I have a story that starts with where she ends up in the story. Is that a good idea? So am I understanding you right, Susan, that you're beginning with your climax, your climactic moment, and then working back from that? Absolutely, that works for stories. It's a great storytelling technique. A lot of action movies start this way, you know, some big scene, and then we go back and how did this character get here? So yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep, we don't mind predictability as long as we're connected with the story, right? And maybe you've had the experience of you're watching a show that you really love and somebody who's not a fan comes in and sees just part of an episode and is like, oh, it's so obvious that this is it. And you're like, shh, for me, I believe it. I bought into this reality. Shh, keep your opinions to yourself. Okay, awesome. So you guys try this. Try one of these open loops or try several of these open loops and see what works for you. Remember, the concept is simply leave people's brains hungry for a little bit more information. Okay, so now let's talk about that asterisk, right? Because I was like, this is how to end your chapter and it will work as long as you've done all these other things. So what has to come before this open loop in order for your open loop to work? We were just talking about we're much more open to things if they're a little predictable, if we've connected with the main character. And that really is the key. If there's only one thing you do in your first chapter, if you get overwhelmed, you're like, I can't create that open loop, it's not working. The one thing you should do is make us bond with your main character, because if we've bonded, then that invites us to go further. Okay, so that's a must-have. We have to bond with the main character. The other thing that has to happen in your first chapter is that something has to happen in your first chapter. It can't just be your main character sitting around and then all of a sudden in the last paragraph you have a cliffhanger. There has to be something interesting. It doesn't have to be high drama, doesn't have to be life-threatening, but something interesting has to be happening or developing. You have to get readers in the mood. That means making your setting palatable, not just the where and when, but the feel. Go back and reread the opening chapter of The Hunger Games. It's so desolate. Like, you know right away you're in this other world and you know the feeling of it. You have to grab readers in the first few paragraphs, and you have to avoid the urge to backstory binge and instead just tell us what we absolutely need to know to get engaged in the story. Okay, so raise your hand if your brain is about to explode now. Like, all of that in my first chapter? It's a lot. And not every chapter is going to be this way. So for somebody who asked the question about, how do I know when to end chapters? Is every chapter going to look like this? No. There are these key moments in your story, these key anchor scenes that are really, really important. And they need that extra TLC. They need that attention, because those are the places where readers are going to make decisions about whether to keep going, whether to even buy the book in the first place, right? Your first chapter is one of the most, if not the most important chapters. I would say your first chapter and your climactic scene together, those are like what hold it all together. So how can you make sure you have all of these things? Well, you want to take them one at a time, right? So don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to do all of those points I just read you at the same time. Make a plan. If you are in the process of drafting your chapter, or if you are revising and editing, make a checklist and just move through one point at a time, right? And this is a place where you should be getting help and not trying to reinvent the wheel and do it all for yourself from scratch. So if you are looking at that list and you're like, I'm ready for that plan, guess what? Ella and I have you covered. Yay! We have all of those plans. We have all of those checklists you need so that you can get a first chapter that's really fantastic without having to completely rewrite it. And the best part is we want to help you knock off every single item on that list with hands-on coaching. Does that sound good to you guys? What if you could have help moving through all of those points, having us bond with your main character, getting the setting, getting the mood, delivering your backstory in the right amounts instead of overwhelming us, having that open loop? Is that something that would be helpful? Give me an emoji or give me a comment. Yes. Raise his hand. Yes. Kaboom! Cassie, I don't know if that was in response to what I just said, but I'm saying kaboom out loud because it's in the comments and it's fun. Yeah, it would be helpful, right? Just to get somebody guiding you all the way through those. That's what we want to help you do. You guys, that's what we're doing. I keep talking on and on about Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp. That's what we're doing. We're going through your first chapter and we're giving that checklist and we're like, hey, here's the 3 places you need to go back to. Here's exactly what you need to do. Here's how you can tweak it. Here's how you can get every point and hit every point without having to completely rewrite. So that's what it's all about. And what I'm describing for your first chapter is only 1 out of 8 modules. I talked about your first chapter and your climactic scene being really key moments. Well, not surprisingly, those are the 2 big writing pieces we have in the Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp. And other than that, it's really all about taking that great story now that you know with confidence it's really fantastic and putting it out in front of readers. Hey, Cassidy. So if you are thinking about launching your book and you would like to have all these pieces in place and have not just a great launch and feel really confident that you did everything you could to get your book in front of readers, but also really confident that you made that story as fantastic as it could be, you definitely want to learn more about Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp. We are having an opening day event on May 19th. And you can get in on that by going to authorlikeaboss.com/booklaunch. And if you join us live for opening day, you are going to get to have a lot of fun with us. We're going to be going through our 8-week launch plan. So you get to learn what that is. If you're like, what do I do for a book launch? What are the steps? You're going to learn our 8-point launch plan. You're going to get a free copy of our 8-week launch plan calendar just for joining us. But there's also going to be a chance to get some exclusive bonuses if you sign up for bootcamp on that day. And these are things we're not offering anywhere else. Ella and I had so much fun brainstorming. We have bootcamp ready to go. And then we sat down and we're like, how could we make this even more fun? How can we add some bonuses that help people take it to the next level? And we just went a little bit hog wild on that because we love being creative. So if you join us for opening day, that opening day event, you're going to have a chance to get in on those bonuses if you sign up for bootcamp. And of course, you're going to learn that launch plan. So join us, register for that live opening day event at authorlikeaboss.com/booklaunch. And make sure you join us next week as we keep this book launch party going. Ella is going to be continuing to talk about building your launch team. Spoiler, no author does it alone. So building your launch team is what gives you that momentum you need to have a really successful launch, and it makes it more fun. And next week, I'm going to be talking about climactic scenes and how that ties into a story that readers love. If you want to make sure you catch us live, go to authorlikeaboss.com/notify. You'll get a little Facebook Messenger robot in your messenger when we go live. And thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks for asking questions and leaving comments. Appreciate that. If you found this helpful, Melissa, I don't know if you get your sweatshirt. That sounds like an awesome bonus. We didn't talk sweatshirt bonuses, but now I want a sweatshirt too. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please do like it, share it with a friend, and you can catch all of our videos on our YouTube channel, Author Like a Boss. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Happy authoring, y'all. Bye.